It's Wednesday, August 9th, 2017. It's time for WorthPoint Chats with Harry Rinker. I'm Greg Watkins from WorthPoint.com, and it's time for our weekly conversation with our antiques and collectibles expert, Harry Rinker. Harry, how you doing?
Well, I'm a little tired, but I'm glad to be back home. I want to thank all of our WorthPoint Chat listeners for putting up with the fact that we weren't on the last 2 weeks. Lynn and I went on a sea land adventure to Alaska, and it was a hoot. I mean, it was a great trip. I have to tell you, first of all, this was my third trip to Alaska. And you think, well, with all the other places in the world I should be seeing, why am I going back 3 times? The first time I went out of Vancouver on a round trip, we went up to, Ketchikan, Juneau, Skagway, Haines, and then kind of turned around and came back. Then the next time I went up on one where we started in Vancouver and wound up in Seward, Alaska. So we went, how was it, from Vancouver, Ketchikan, Juneau, Skagway, Glacier Bay, and then up to Seward. Took the train up to Anchorage and flew back. And this time we just went up and we left Vancouver, stopped at Juneau, and didn't bother to go into Juneau, but I'd been there before. I took a wonderful float, pontoon boat trip up to the Tracy Arm and the Sawyer Glaciers. Saw both of them. We had fabulous weather. I mean, you talk about all this. It was like it's summertime in Alaska, which means the temperature was in the 70s and 80s, and the sun was out. We had a very minimal amount of rain, and then we went up from there to Skagway, and at Skagway I got on the White Mountain, or the White Pass and Yukon Railroad. Now, Skagway was one of the big jumping off points for the 1899 gold rush, right?
Right. And
so they built this railway up the side of the mountain, and at milepost 11, I knew there was a sign that said, "On to Alaska with Buchanan." Now, I don't know if I told you this, but prior to going to Alaska, I had acquired the documentation of a young man that in 1925 went to Alaska with Buchanan. Now, Buchanan was a Detroit coal and wood merchant. And in 1923, he started a program called On to Alaska with Buchanan, where he took about 30 or 40 boys on adventure of a lifetime. It was one of these, go to the great outdoors, have an adventure of a lifetime. And the deal was the boy had to raise a third of the money. Parents could pay a third of the money. And then he would loan the boy the final third of the money. The boy would eventually have to pay him back. But anyway, so they went off by rail up to Canada, and then by steamship up along the coast of Juneau and all the way up, and then came back by rail across the country. And in 1925, a young man named Harris went on that trip, Richard Harris, and I got his logs, all the information, a suitcase full of stuff. And it was funny. He was a young man. He, interestingly enough, he and a number of young men from Mount Pleasant, Michigan, went down and joined the group in Detroit. I think 4 or 5 of them. Went with a group about 40 or 50. And they went up there. And one of the things they did was ride the White Pass and Yukon and White Pass Railroad, White Pass and Yukon Railroad. And over the years, as this guy did these trips, someone on the side of the mountain, as he went up the railroad, put up this big sign, "On to Alaska with Buchanan." And it has become such a historic thing that there's a whole society in Alaska that preserves that sign. And so there I was sitting on the White Pass and Yukon Railroad, and I saw it. And in this material I bought from the kid, there was his personal diary, all his steamship tickets, and he didn't have a lot of money, so he bought postcards as he went along, and all the postcards that he survived. So when I was in Alaska, in Skagway, we were in the museum for the Skagway, and there was a museum section on the White Pass and Yukon Railroad, and there was a book of postcards, and I had it. in the collection of the kid. I think historic, but there it was. But it was fun to do that. It was fun to kind of like relive that kid's adventure. And the other thing was I'd never gone overland. I'd never gone inland. And the cruise we selected was 3 days at seas and 7 days at land. So we got off at Skagway and went up to Whitehorse and then drove from Whitehorse to Dawson City, which was an 8.5-hour bus drive. Interesting. Stayed in Dawson City for 2 days, then flew to Fairbanks, Alaska, stayed there overnight, then went down to the Denali National Forest, the National Park at Denali, and then eventually took a train ride, an 8-hour train ride from there down to Anchorage, and flew out of Anchorage. I have to tell you, it really is an adventure of a lifetime. Now, it was a big risk for me because my wife is a Hilton camper. You know what that means, right? Anything less than a Hilton is not a satisfactory hotel.
Yes, right.
And she's very fastidious about bathrooms. So we had over 25 bathroom stops in the 11 days, and she did really well. I'm very proud of her. And some of the hotels were good, and some of them were adventuresome, so to speak. But I have a new appreciation for the vastness of land. This trip from Whitehorse to Dawson, this 8-hour bus trip, we were looking down valleys that were 50, 100 miles long, and there were no people. I mean, there were animals, obviously, and there must have been some people down there somewhere. But
no evidence of civilization.
But the vastness, the unsettled vastness of the country, especially of the Yukon Territory, was overwhelming. Then we got to Denali. Now, talk about bucket lists. Denali was not on my bucket list, but it should have been. Now, Denali, you have to be careful about this. This is a very sensitive topic for the Alaskans. Denali.
Right. I remember there was a naming issue, right?
Was Mount McKinley. It was called Mount McKinley.
Right.
Mount McKinley. And it had been originally called Denali by the natives, and then it was named after President McKinley, and we just didn't like it because McKinley never came to Alaska. President Harding came to Alaska. I don't know who else is, and obviously Sarah Palin was there, but she wasn't president. But anyway, so they changed it back, and they had to get a bill through Congress to do it. And the representatives from the senators from the state of Ohio refused to back it. So it was held up for years and years and years. It finally passed under Carter. Finally, about 2 or 3 years ago, the name of the park was changed and Denali became Denali. Now, it's the highest mountain in the United States, Old Mount McKinley, or Denali Mountain, as they call it now. And it's often enclosed in fog. It's usually foggy, so you can't see it. Now, there are pictures of it when the sky is clear and so forth. Well, we took it as it was a 4-hour bus ride up these roads to get out to 30 miles close to the mountain, right? Well, first of all, my wife has got a height issue, right? And I don't know if you've ever driven Route 1 out on the West Coast, but if you drive Route 1 on
I've
the
done
West Coast, yes, you know that you really don't want to be on the driver's side except on the way back, not on the way up, because you look down and it's like there's nothing down there except things.
Sheer drop.
Well, yes, well, we went up about 5 miles of this road up the side of the mountain. That was sheer drop. And there was Linda right on the edge of the window of the bus. Now, I just told her, I said, you got to get through this because when you come back, you'll be on the inside. It won't be so bad, right? But this road, which doesn't look like it would handle one bus, is a 2-lane road. And so when you're going up, it's okay because you're on the end, when you're going up, I remember this. Yes, you're on the outside. The bus is coming back past you on the inside. Now, coming back, it's not so bad because the other buses pass you on the outside, so if they're going to slip off, it's okay for them. But it was hazardous. But we got to Denali, and we saw about 80% of the mountain. And it's mind-boggling. It's one of those things that the image will live forever in your mind. I mean, seriously, I would encourage people to do this. Now, if you're going to do it with one of the cruise lines, whether it's All American or Princess or Regency. They've got everything tied up, every hotel, every bus, you name it. It's really almost a tourist economy up there. But we had fun. We went out to a gold ridge and panned for gold. And here's the deal. We found some gold.
Yeah.
$35 worth of gold.
44.
Well, between Linda and I and our two pans, we using our little fingers and our tongue picked up the little flakes that were left, and they put it in the book, and they tell you, oh, $44. So then they want to sell you a locket, to hold it. And I said, oh, good, we'll take the 1995 silver one. And Linda says, no, we won't. We'll take the $109 14K one. So
I see where this is going.
Yes. So anyway, so now we have a $109 locket to hold our $44 of gold flakes that we got, but we did get them ourselves. I mean, that was all right. And so there we are, and everybody's paying for gold, right?
Yeah.
They give you this like poke of dirt, I'm thinking mathematically, what's the possibility that out of say 50 people, you're going to get 50 people that find gold? I mean, you figure one klutz is going to dump all this shit into the waterbed, or something's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So I said to the one young man, I said, that's amazing. Everybody finds some gold. He said, sir, everybody will find gold. I have a little thing in my pocket here in case it's not there. We'll see if it gets there. But it was all right. It was a lot of fun. It was a look at what a state with 700,000 people in it, and that's it. But the vastness of it is amazing. And I know we're not supposed to talk. We shouldn't be talking about it. But we'll talk. I'll get this around to collectibles in just a second. But anyway, when we were in Denali, this gal that drove our bus was there. We saw a grizzly bear and her cub. We saw a black bear. We saw, we didn't see a male moose, but we saw several cow mooses, one with a calf. We saw a big group of Dall sheep, but there are 3 wolf herds there, and we saw wolves from 2 of the herds. And falcons. I mean, it was just fabulous, and I would recommend it to anybody. Now, you have to understand that there is Harry on this trip. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm going to take a few pictures, but not many, because I don't take pictures anymore when I go anywhere. Because I have spent too much time cleaning out estates where people have 500 trays of Kodak 2x2 slides in them that nobody wants, including their kids, right?
Right. Yeah.
Piles of black and white, unidentified black and white images. And so actually, it's all because of my Aunt Jeanette and the elephant. Now, I have to tell you this story because my Aunt Jeanette went on a safari to Africa. Yes. And she saw an elephant. And Aunt Jeanette, there was a thing in my family. When everybody went on a trip, you got invited to look at the family photographs, right? And so what happened was you knew where you stood in the family if one of 3 things occurred. If you got invited for dinner, dessert in the photographs, that meant you were really in. If you only got invited for dessert, that meant you were okay, but you weren't in as much as the guys that got invited for dinner. Or if you only got invited to look at the photographs, you knew you were on the shits. Well, another family tradition was that you don't edit the pictures. Okay, that you show every single one. Focused or unfocused. Good, bad, or indifferent. You show them.
Thumbs and everything.
So we're talking about hours of tips. So my Aunt Jeanette went on this safari, and it was time to go over Aunt Jeanette's house to look at the pictures. And she finally gets to the picture of an elephant. She took 57 pictures of that elephant. There was no portion of that elephant that was not photographed. Top, bottom, back, front, underneath, you name it, it was photographed over and over again. I went home that night and threw out all my 2x2 slides. Said, I will never put anyone through this again. Okay?
Okay.
Now, probably destroying many historic records that people would like to have because I'm now older and they would like to know what areas looked like 50 years ago. But the point is that there I was in Alaska and I'm thinking, what should I bring back? Okay. Well, first of all, if you have 7 grandkids, you don't want to say, "Great, if you spend $20 a grandkid, that's $140." Or if you spend $50, it's a lot of money. They don't care anyway. So
Generally, yeah.
So the question is, do you buy postcards? And then well, I got 8,000 postcards out in the garage that somebody bought that had anything to do with. I've got to sort through one of these fine days, and I thought they don't want that. And in the end, I bought my wife a bracelet, and that was the end of it. So I did, but then they have all the. But then we got some booklets. We got this beautiful booklet when we toured Denali, and we were on the McKinley Railroad, and we got a booklet about that. And so I've got them all neatly in a file now, day by day, right? And that's going to go into my trip file, and when I die, my kids are going to take one look at that and say, "Okay, junk, boom, that's the end of it." So all this vacation stuff, all this adventure stuff, and I mean, today we suffer in the antique trade because kids want adventures, not antiques. You know, that's what they use their discretionary money on. They go and have these adventures.
Yes, that's right.
And the good news is they're documenting them digitally. That means someday all we have to do is press the delete button, and we don't have to deal with that stuff ever again. Right?
That's right.
I mean, you don't download the pictures from your iPhone and make prints, do you?
Only the ones that I want to display.
Yeah, well, now that you've got the 5 frames filled, so what?
Yeah, I know it.
You know, it's going to be, in a way, it's going to be very tragic because there's going to be an enormous loss of family photos. I mean, one member of the family throws all this stuff on Facebook. They must have thousands of pictures on Facebook. But one day there's going to be a hiccup, and they're all going to be gone. Now, I lost all mine when I washed my phone in the washer. You know, the old flip phones, you could wash those in the washer, they'd be fine. But these new digital phones, man, one wash and they're done. They wipe it.
Right.
And everything gets wiped. And what do I know about downloading anything from the phone, you know? But anyway, enough of all of this. I did get to go to a couple of antique shops up there. And I would say what passes for antiques in Alaska is pathetic. I mean, well, I mean, it really is. It was.
Well, I guess that makes sense, right? Because there aren't many people there to begin with. So what's left over, all the good stuff's going to be picked over.
How many antiques could survive minus 35-degree weather? You know, or minus 53 and minus 45-degree weather.
Yeah.
I mean, the temperature, the conditions up there isn't particularly geared to the survival of them either, and the prices were fairly high. I mean, they were booking above, and I thought, well, okay, that's fine. But I didn't see many people spending their money on antiques up there. So, but talk about hunting and fishing boats and all kinds of other stuff. It was all right. Well, anyway, speaking of books, as we segue into this, got an interesting email in. One that poses some interesting questions. It's from someone who said, "I have a history of the United States that was published in 1790." Now we're gonna bring it up. Can you bring the title page up here?
Yep, here it comes.
Yeah, here it comes. And I like the guy. The history of the United States in two books, and it's keep on going down. The history of America, in 2 books: General History of America, Concise History of the Late Revolution. From the American edition of the Encyclopedia, now publishing. Now, here it is, 1790, 14 years after the Revolution. And what people don't realize is that American publishers are doing encyclopedias of the world, of world history at the time. Now, that's the first interesting thing about this book. Now, move on down. And there you can see it's by Thomas Dobson out of Philadelphia. And there is the date, April 1790, right?
Yep.
And, okay, a little information about the book. It's 4 by 6 inches in size. And it's well worn and missing the back hardcover. Otherwise, all the pages are there. The history of past ownership was lost with the passing of my older brother. It's interesting reading for history buffs. I'm reaching out to you because so far I've had a little success in finding out about its rarity and value. All right, now, it doesn't look in the best of shape, right? But here you can see the different chapters in there. And one of the really fun things, if you go to the back of it, is it contains a list of, now that's book one, then there's book two, but it contains a list of other books that the company is selling. Can you blow that up? Go right there, that one right there. And it's interesting to read the title, Smith's Inquiry into Nature and the Wealth of Nation. That's Adam Smith. Nicholas's Introduction to Natural Philosophy, Paley's Moral and Political Philosophy, Watt's Logic. This is what our forefathers are reading. I don't know about the Adventures of Alfonso, but and Crawford on Animal Heat. I don't know quite what that is either. But anyway, but here it is. What an interesting set of titles. Now, before I start talking about it, I thought, well, this will stump WorthPoint, right? But it didn't.
No, we found one.
You found one on the Worthopedia, by gosh almighty. And what did we find?
We found the 1795 History of America in 2 books, Thomas Dobson, American Revolution, rare.
Yeah. And it sold when? In 19...
last December, for $150.
Right. Now, here's the deal. This book, there's 2 things, discovered several things. First of all, there is a modern reprint of this book. So if you want the information in it, you don't have to pay big money. Okay, it was done in 2010, and it's available on the net for about 25 to 30 bucks. Okay, the reprint. Yeah. Well, there were apparently 3 editions of this book. There was one done in 1798. And interestingly enough, on abebooks.com, which is, when somebody has an old book and we're trying to tell them where to go look for it, we say, go look at abebooks.com. And there is a copy of the 1798 one. Now, it's in poor condition, disbound. Text block is split in half, some loose pages, no covers. But they wanted $46 plus $4 shipping, $50 for it, all right?
Okay, that sounds reasonable.
That sounds reasonable. Now, here's an interesting situation, because on abooks.com is a copy of the 2nd edition, the 1795 edition you found on eBay, yes. Right?
Right.
Printed by Thomas Dobson, contemporary full calf gilt letter to Morocco, binding well rubbed, but sound, end paper is size, lacking the 2 maps, sign, P, starting occasional light foxing, some marginal wobbling, and so forth. $1,950 the bookseller wants for it. Okay? Big difference from $1,500, isn't it? Or $150.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. But this copy belonged to one Artemus Ward, okay? He is known for having been commander-in-chief of the Massachusetts militia at the time of the Battle of Bunker Hill. Now look what, I cite this, and this is wonderful in terms of what you found. Because are you telling me that the fact that one book, they don't know who it belonged to, and the other book belonged to the guy who was the commander, second in command of Washington at the Battle of Bunker Hill, that adds $1,800 to the value of the book? Maybe, right?
Yeah.
But on Abe Books, there was, pray tell, a copy of the 1790. Oh, there was another 1795 edition for $2,000, which didn't belong to anybody, but the guy thought it was worth that kind of money. But the maps were all there. Okay, their maps may not have been in this one. But there was a copy of the 1791, and this is what the description says. Exceedingly rare. Containing general history of America, concise history of the late Revolution, extracted from the American edition of the encyclopedia. We said that, blah, blah, blah. Now, this one had original cap, professionally refurbished with remains of original leather spine laid down. North American map repaired, South American map supplied and fixed, only 2 leaves restored. Pages 167 to 8 replaced, has 2 leaves of ads at the end. Various owners' names in the front paper. Overall good, $5,000. So now, what advice do you give to what price do you give to the guy that owns this example that we have, right? And where do we go? What would be your first advice?
Well, because it's missing the back,
right?
It's not going to. You can't demand as much as the other ones.
But you can have it rebound.
That is true.
Because remember, the one for $5,000 had the front and back rebound, and only the spine from the book was there. So and it's not going to cost $5,000 to rebind it properly. Okay, you're probably talking less than $500. Okay, so my first advice to this guy is get it rebound. Get the cover up to snuff. Check to make sure both maps are there, right? Make sure it's complete otherwise. But this is the case where now you'd say, well, why doesn't he sell it now and let the next owner rebind it, right?
Right.
Because I think there's a perceived value difference between the way it stands and it's ready to be put at a bookshelf. Okay? And first of all, I don't think, now, let's make it clear that we don't want this guy to send it out to some jerk. Just let him rebind it, okay? The truth of the matter is that we wanted to go to a professional bookbinder and have it done right, okay? But it's not going to cost more than $500, if that much, right? So I think, and there was another interesting note, by the way, at the end of no auction records for the past 30 years. Okay, so we're not talking about an edition of this book that comes on the market very often, right?
Right.
So my feeling is if he invests in rebinding, replacing the binding on the back, what's the most he's going to have in it? $300-400. I mean, he didn't pay anything for it. He got it from his brother's estate. I think sending it to a high-end book auctions like Swan in New York or even Heritage Galleries down in Texas, he's going to get into the thousands of dollars. Will you get $2,500? I think he has a real shot. Will he get $4,000 or $5,000? Maybe, and maybe because of the edition. Maybe. But
so this one here is the first edition.
That is the first edition. Yes. Yeah. Yep. It is definitely.
I love the writing that the owners put into the book.
Right. Yes, and I think that adds to the character of the book, actually. It's not necessarily a list of owners, but there was a one name of the guy who owned it in 1842, right? You found that.
Yeah, let me find it. There it is.
But I mean, this has to be one of the earliest histories, right? It has to be one of the earliest histories done of the United States and of the American Revolution, I would think. Not the earliest, but it's one of the earliest.
Well, it predates Washington's presidency, doesn't it?
No. Washington was president in 1798.
98. Okay, a year.
Yeah, the Constitution was passed in 1798. He was president. Jefferson was elected. Even earlier. Jefferson was elected in 1800, so he would have been.
Yeah, was 92 when Washington.
1892.
Yeah.
1892. So.
But this book is 1890.
Oh, it's 1790.
I mean, 1790. You're right. Yeah.
70
to 70.
Now let's try this again. He was president in. Wait. Now, let's try to get this right. He was president in 1792. So this book was published before he became president. You're right.
Yeah.
What a fascinating thing to research, wouldn't it be?
I'd love to see what they said about Washington at this point.
Well, I'm sure he got good reviews as commander of the Continental Army.
Yes, but were they talking about him?
You know what? You're right about that, because this would have been published during the period of the Articles of Confederation when Washington had resigned his commission and we were under the Articles.
Yeah.
Interesting, huh? Well, see, this is what
we can write back to our viewer and ask to see pictures of those pages about Washington. I'd like to read it.
Well, I know you would, but you can pay $25 and get the facsimile thing and read the whole thing.
Oh, that's true.
But this I
wonder if there's a PDF online that
I wouldn't surprise me if we could find that too. But the thing about it is that it's a fascinating thing. You know, here it sat in somebody's collection in Reading, Pennsylvania, and he said, he said, at some point, he'd like to offer it for sale. Well, again, it's all about hype. But if there hasn't been an auction record of this for 30 years, I would get excited about the possibilities of restoring it and sending it to auction. And I wouldn't send it to auction like it stands. Now you could, I suppose, contact, and this is not when you sell at the local auction house. This is one that has to go to
A specialty shop.
specialty auction like Swan's, which is maps and literature, or our Heritage Gallery for its historic Americana section and so forth. And I suppose you could contact the authorities there and ask their opinion about whether it should be rebinded. But, what a lot of people don't know is that auction galleries, big ones like Sotheby's and Christie's, often restore stuff before they sell it. You know that? They clean paintings. They do all kinds of stuff.
Right. Yeah, just to get it ready for auction.
Because they want to sell a room-ready product and the most pristine product out there. But this was a fun one. I mean, this actually came in today, and I just said, man, I'm going to stop what I'm doing and research it because it seemed like an awful lot of fun to me. And it was an awful lot of fun. Well, I know you had to put up with my talking about my Alaskan trip, and we'll try to get serious about other matters next week, because I had an interesting experience right before I left for Alaska. I was invited into a estate in Kalamazoo where the woman collected in the 30s and 40s and early American stuff. And it's in the hands of a local auctioneer and estate sale person. But I was called in because I was one of the few people in the area that recognized the stuff. And we'll talk about that adventure. But we can talk a lot about more, but we'd like to talk about some of the things our listeners would like to. And we do want to tell our WorthPoint viewer that sent in a notice about a hot rod t-shirt, signed hot rod t-shirt. I would love more information about that t-shirt. Who signed it? Who are some of the people involved? How do they relate to the Hot Rod Association? Because I'm having trouble finding anything. But if you would like to submit an object for us to talk about on the air and evaluate, or if you have a topic you'd like us to talk about on the air, here's how you do it. You send your thing to community@worthpoint.com. Community@worthpoint.com. Your email will get forwarded to me and to Greg, and we will get to it eventually on one of these chats. We'll be back next week at the same time. Meanwhile, we want to congratulate Greg. He is now officially a teacher of record at a local high school in Georgia. Good for you, sir.
That's right. Thank you. I've got American literature, British literature, and the yearbook this year. So it's quite a load for my first.
What are you reading from Shaky Spear this year?
What's that?
Are you reading some of the Shaky Spear this year?
Yes, we will. We will. Probably some Macbeth to begin with, and double, toil and trouble, cauldrons burn, and bubble, or whatever the heck they do. Yeah. Well, the British lit kids are going to be introduced to Beowulf tomorrow. Don't do that to them. It's part of it. Start with Chaucer. Forget Beowulf. My first year, I think I've got to follow the lead of the department head. Yeah, you do what you're told. That is true. I agree with that. Once I get my feet under me, then I can start freelancing out. And I never understood why we had to. I had to do it too. Why we had to read Beowulf. It made no sense to me whatsoever. Well, the kids They don't have to read the whole 124 pages. We've got X. Well, that's good. So there's only about 22 pages, and so that's a break on their side. Yes, thank goodness for that. Yes, yeah. but they'll like Chaucer when they get there. I like Chaucer. I did too. I think I did my senior project on Canterbury Tales. Well. A word with more than one meaning from Chaucer's point of view, but we won't go there. That's right. Okay. All right. Have a great week there, buddy. I will. You too. Until next week, we'll say good night. Good night, sir. Good night, Harry.